Hello everyone and welcome back to Buff Breakers. Very excited today. I received back from Beckett my first submission of cards to be graded, and I'm very excited to get these back. I sent them in about 10 days ago, so I did pay a little bit extra to have them back quickly. And I would have to say that they moved pretty fast. They got the cards at the beginning of a week, last week, and by the end of the week I had received an email in which they told me how those cards were graded. And so we're going to take a look at those today. Before we begin, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Only about 17 subscribers away from a giveaway to a future break. That break will probably be NFL Legacy, although I am considering another NBA break before then. So if you'd like to have a free spot in a future break, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment down below, and just say hi. All right, so let's open this up. Let's go through the process. So I picked out 10 cards and I filled out the paperwork, sent them into Beckett. I insured my package to Beckett. I paid extra. I paid for 2-day shipping so that it would get down to Dallas, Texas pretty quickly. And then I paid a little bit extra to Beckett to have the cards graded quickly and back to me. So there's different, if you haven't done it before, there's different levels of service that you can pay for. And based on some suggestions that I've gotten from people online, I paid a little bit extra, okay, for these to get them back quickly. All right, so let's pull this out and see what you get, all right, and how these are packaged here. And we'll go through them and see how we did. Now, I already know how I did because, like I said, they do send you a, they do send you an email telling you how you did. So let's see. Now, I guess we'll start off here since I already pulled this one out. So we have a Zion Williamson pink Pulsar. This is his college uniform, and this was a 9.5 gem mint. Now you might notice that I did not pay extra for the for the corners, for the surface, for the rating, for that sort of rating, the centering. I didn't pay extra for that just because maybe I'm cheap, I don't know. I was already paying a lot for the service to get them back quickly, so I just didn't want to add extra money to have the individual subgrades, as they're called, on there as well. Okay, so I also figured that if I had anything that was a 9.5 or better, who cares about the subgrades? I mean, a 9.5 is basically on par with a PSA 10. Okay, so the two big companies that you can go with are Beckett or PSA. And PSA only operates in full numbers and whole numbers, whereas Beckett operates in 9.5 in decimals. So basically a 9.5 is often considered to be the same as a PSA 10. All right, now why get cards graded? Why go through the expense of doing this? And if you're wondering, I paid probably about $33 per card to have the whole thing done. And that would not include my personal shipping for them down to Beckett. Why would you do this? So let's just say that they created 10,000 of these cards. If Panini made 10,000 of these cards, well, if there's 100 of these cards that were graded through Beckett, and Beckett keeps track of that, it's called a pop report. If 100 cards were graded, now you've just made your card more valuable, because instead of being one of, let's say, 10,000 cards, it's now one of 100 cards that was graded. Also, within the grading, if there are some cards that graded out to a 9 or an 8.5, having a 9.5 even means that your card is even that much more valuable, because now it might be one of 50 cards instead of one in 10,000. So that's why you have cards graded. They also then are well protected. I'm going to take this out of the plastic for a second here. They do come well protected then in this sealed case. Okay, and they are serial numbered. So Beckett has a record of this card. It's serial numbered right here. So it's reflected in the pop report. So now Beckett has, this card has been authenticated. It's a real card. Beckett has it in their catalog, and now I have it here in my house. So there's one. I know you can see that on camera, but you can't see the grading. All right, let's go through another one here. We've got I'm gonna put these back in plastic, by the way, because I don't want the cases to scratch. So we have a Ja Morant, same thing, pink pulsar rookie card, college uni, 9.5, equivalent to a PSA 10. I knew these cards would grade out pretty well. At least I figured they would grade out pretty well. So that's why I sent these two cards in to be graded. And I felt that way about all the cards that I sent, except for one, and you'll see in a little bit which one I'm talking about. Okay, so here we have a Ja Morant. Again, Ja and Zion were the big ones. I purchased this one off of eBay, and I thought I got a pretty good deal for it, and I purchased it with the sole intention of getting it graded so that it would become one of a smaller number of cards. I was happy to see that this one also graded out to a 9.5, which, by the way, the GEM mint is gem mint. Okay, that's what that stands for. When they do the grading, they grade the back as well as the front for centering. They grade the corners. Okay, they grade the surface, and I'm trying to think of what the fourth one is off the top of my head. I cannot. So if you do pay extra for the subgrades will show up here. But like I said, I figured if anything was going to grade out to a 9.5, why bother with the subgrades? And so actually 7 of the 10 cards I sent in ended up being a 9.5. All right, so then we have another Zion, same thing. I purchased this off eBay with the sole intention of sending it in. Based on the scanned pictures on eBay, they look like they were in very good shape. So I figured I would get them, send them in. And so now we've got the rookie card here. This one actually has a little dull mark on the case. All right, so I sent this in, Zion and Ja, and both of them graded out to be a 9.5. All right, I felt good about this one as well. I got this off eBay a long time ago. This is just the Ja Morant base Prism card. Again, it came out to a 9.5, so I don't regret not having the subgrades on it. Ja Morant, 9.5. And by the way, without the subgrades, why wouldn't it have gotten a 10? Why would it have gotten a 9.5? It very easily could have gotten a 10 in 3 of the 4 categories, but if it gets 9.5 in any single category, more than likely it's going to be knocked down to a 9.5 because it's not specifically a 10. A 10 is pristine, and a 10 means that the card is absolutely perfect. Although I've seen pictures online that indicate that they're not always perfect in what they grade out as a 10. Sometimes you do see errors. Okay, so here's a couple of disappointing ones. Now, they're not super disappointing. All right, I guess for this one, maybe I would have liked to have had the subgrades. You'll also notice that a 9.5 is a gold label, whereas a 9 or lower is a silver label. Okay, so the subgrades would have been nice here. Now, again, this could have been a 10 in 2 of the categories, a 9.5 in another category, and then like an 8.5 in one single category, which ended up bringing it down to a 9. I'll have to look this over to see what they saw that I didn't see, because it looks to me like the centering is good, but there is possibility that maybe there were some marks on the surface. Maybe the centering was a tad bit off on the back. It's hard to see. The subgrades would have made it, good to know that, but again, it is a 9. Now, if I wanted to, I could crack this open and send it to PSA to see if maybe it would grade out to a 10 in PSA, because again, they just use whole numbers. But a 9 is still a good number. It's still a good number to have. And so that's the deal there. All right, I did send in one more. Now, this is the one that was most disappointing. Okay, 8.5. Now, I was worried about this one right from the beginning. Now, this is the most valuable card I sent in, but this one graded out to an 8.5. I am pretty sure this one probably got a 10 on the centering, a 10 on the corners, and ended up with a surface score of like 7.5. Because I have seen 8.5s on eBay where It's gotten 10 on 3 of the categories and like a 7.5 on one category, and it brings it down to like an 8.5 or an 8 on one category. Okay, so this is a near mint, 8.5. Is disappointing. I would love to have gotten a 9.5 or especially like a 10 on a Zion Silver like this. It would have been good, I guess, here to have the subgrades to know exactly what it was. But I can tell you, I think I know. I'm going to try to, I mean, my lighting's not the best here, but I know there are pock marks on the surface. There's one here. There's 2 right there. The surface definitely was not perfect, and I knew that sending it in. And so I was concerned that it might get a 9. I was hoping it wouldn't, or here's another one too. So I was concerned it could end up being like an 8.5, and it ended up being an 8.5. I was hoping to maybe squeeze out a 9 with that, but it didn't. Again, this is one you could maybe crack open, send it to PSA, see if you can get a PSA 9, because a PSA 9 would be worth more than a Beckett 8.5, but I don't know if I'm gonna bother doing that. Anyway, you know, this card does take a hit on its value being an 8.5. It would be more valuable if it was a 9.5, but I'm not overly surprised because of the pock marks on the surface. So the surface probably was the thing that got knocked down there. All right, football. We sent in 2 footballs. This one, like the Zion I just showed you, I was concerned this could get a 9. It did get a 9. There are 2 pock marks on the surface. There is one right there. You can kind of see these even better than the Zion. There's 2 pock marks on the surface, so I was concerned about the surface. More than likely, this got a 10 on 3 of the categories and got like an 8.5 on the surface or something, which is why it ended up being a 9. I was concerned that this one could be a 9 for that reason. The centering did look good on it, but it did have the pock marks on it, so ended up being a 9 for Deshaun Watson, the pink parallel. Okay, and then last but not least, now this one I am actually particularly excited about because there's some uniqueness to this. Why do you get cards graded? Here's why. On the pop report for this card, now this is a case hit, so Beckett doesn't make too many of these. I'd have to look it up, not Beckett, excuse me, Panini. I'd have to look up and see how many of these actually Panini produces. It could be as low as 20, okay? This card is the only card that Beckett has on its pop report for the JJ Watt Downtown. So not only is this a rare card, not only did it grade out to a 9.5 or a PSA 10, but it is the only card in Beckett's log that was sent in for JJ Watt Downtown. So I am holding it. It is mine. This is a virtual 1 of 1 because if you want a Beckett rated 9.5 JJ Watt Downtown, you have to come to me. That's it. You have to come to me. They have 1 in their system, and this is it. So this one obviously graded out well. Why it got a 9.5, what was 9.5 on it, not entirely sure. Maybe there's a single pock mark somewhere that I can't see on the surface. Again, when they do their rating, in fact there is actually, I think right there. When they do their grading, they look through a little magnifying glass at the whole thing. Okay, so I am not going to take all the time to do that myself, but all right. So, but this card is unique in the fact that it is I've turned it into a 1 of 1 for now. Somebody else might send one into Beckett at some point in the future, but right now this is the only card that Beckett has on its pop report for a JJ Watt Downtown, which is pretty cool. So, all right, next time I might splurge to get the subgrades. I didn't do it this time. For 7 of the cards, I got a 9.5 anyway, so I don't really care about that much. Would have been interesting to have the subgrades for the cards that graded below, especially for this one, which is, you know, the one I'm upset about because it was the most valuable card I sent in and it got the lowest rating. But still, it was graded. It is in a sealed case. It is in the it is on the pop report for Beckett. And you know, I guess if I want to be silly about it, there's only 2 of these cards that were graded 8.5, and I have one of them. I mean, not that that's going to win me any you know, any awards for this card. Obviously, there's only 110, and that's the one I really would like to have. But, you know, I'll tell you, it's graded, it's protected in plastic. And all right, so this was a neat experience to go through. It's not a cheap experience to go through, but I do like the fact that I have these graded now. My intention is to sell some of these sooner than later to make up for the cost of having these graded, as well as a little bit extra. This is definitely one I am considering putting on the market to move because it did grade out to an 8.5, so I'm less, I can take the money and run with this one for now, I think. But then some extras I definitely would like to keep. Now I feel like there's a card missing here. No, yes, there is a card missing. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, there was one more card. Yes, with all their advertisements and stuff. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. Yeah, the Zion the Zion rookie card for Prism. All right, 9.5. So again, I don't care if I have the subgrades on this because it's a 9.5. And this was one that after I bought it from eBay and got it in, I felt really good about. So, all right, so there we go. All right, so there was the 10 that I sent in. This is one I'm definitely going to want to hang on to. I think for the long term, I think a couple that I might want to move. I might sell these mosaics. Okay. I might move maybe move this Deshaun Watson, and I might consider moving this because of the rarity that it is. All right, interesting that my two football ones both ended up being the Houston Texans. All right, so these two might get moved, and perhaps my two mosaics might get moved, but I am definitely probably going to keep these Ja's and Zions in my collection, at least for the time being, and we'll see what happens to the value of those as time moves on. So there it is, my first BGS submission. I am planning to do a submission for SGC probably sometime in the near future with some of my other cards, just to see how that works out. May do another one through Beckett. It was very easy, got them back very quickly. And as far as PSA, I will look into PSA again. Last time I looked into PSA, it seemed like their wait time was forever. So I wanted to get the stuff back a little faster than that. All right, so that's it for now. Until next time, keep collecting, and please subscribe to the channel.